Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and we have to break down one serious draft scenario for this team. I may do multiple videos like this where we break down different draft scenarios, like how can we attack the free safety position, how can we attack, and then I'll take a look at a lot of the prospects that we may want to get, whether it be the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth round or whatever. But today's edition, the first one, rightfully so, is going to be quarterback, and we're going to take a look at how the Washington football team can answer the quarterback position in its 2022 NFL draft. We have trade up options. Potentially, will we just let one fall? So we're going to take a look at all of the guys that are drafting before us and after us who may end up trading ahead of us to try to get a quarterback. We're going to analyze all of those situations and whether or not we even need to trade up to get one. And then, of course, we have to take a nice deep dive on all of the top quarterback prospects. We have 7 to discuss, and I'm going to break down a lot of their weaknesses and strengths and where I expect them to potentially go in the draft. I'm giving a range, though. It's hard to exactly pinpoint because things change. I mean, the combine still hasn't happened. We still have the college football playoffs for guys like Desmond Ridder. So who knows? We'll see. But I'm trying to estimate a range for each of these guys as well. So again, we're going to break down the weaknesses and strengths, and I'm going to try to give you a range of where they may get drafted. And this is a good guide for really anybody or any team that needs a quarterback in this draft. I'm breaking it down as if anybody can. The first half is going to be purely the Washington football team because it's going to be looking at our draft positioning and who may or may not need a quarterback that's drafting around us, whether it be before or, again, like I already said, after us, who may trade ahead of us to try to get one. But then the second half is just straight quarterback talk, and that information is useful for anybody other than one of these teams that already has a franchise quarterback. And we got to dive into that too, because you got to take a look at this draft order and notice that all of the teams with franchise quarterbacks have something in common. For those of y'all who feel like franchise quarterback doesn't matter in the NFL still. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately, and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you go check out the rest of the channel. Just came out with my video yesterday breaking down the 20 positives from this tragic 2021 Washington football team season. A lot went wrong, but there were some things that went right, so make sure you go check that out as well. And without further ado, man, let's get it. All right, so first of all, y'all know me, man. I've been preaching go get a quarterback. I've been captain of the go get a quarterback club for years now. I've been out here debating with people, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere I can find, arguing up and down that the Washington football team needs to go all in for quarterback, whether it be through trade, free agency, draft, whatever. I prefer the draft route, and that's the route that gets me the most excited and ready to make a video. But of course, there's other avenues, but the more realistic option, and again, for me, the most exciting option, is for us to attack it in the draft. But who's to say that we may not bring in a free agent quarterback or trade for one and still draft one later in the draft? Who knows? But this scenario I'm looking at right now is, first of all, the NFL season hasn't ended. We are currently sitting with the 9th pick, but that can change. Maybe we win some games, we go back a little bit. Maybe we beat the Eagles and or the Giants, we move back some spots. Maybe we lose both games and end up moving up to probably like the 7th pick. Who knows? Nothing's set in stone right now. Also, team needs aren't set in stone because free agency hasn't happened. Remember, free agency starts before the draft, so we'll have a better clue of what's going on, who truly needs a quarterback by the time the draft comes around, because maybe Russell Wilson leaves the Seahawks and goes to one of these QB needy teams like Detroit or something, and now maybe they don't need a quarterback. Maybe Aaron Rodgers leaves the Packers, so now they need a quarterback, and whatever team he goes to, they no longer need a quarterback. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? Maybe we get one of them. Who knows? But as of today, just trying to guess the future before free agency happens, before these draft picks are set in stone, what we currently have to work with, the Washington football team has the 9th pick overall, and we're going to go down from the top. First of all, the Jaguars clearly don't need a franchise quarterback. Even though Trevor Lawrence hasn't been that ascendant talent like a lot of people hyped him up to be, they're still going to work with them for at least the next 2-3 years, I'm assuming. So they're out of the QB market. They may even be willing to trade down and let another team come up to get a quarterback, but with the way that the general public and GMs and NFL scouts and NFL owners look at this QB class, I highly doubt anybody's trading up with the Jaguars to get that first overall pick. They're more than likely just going to go ahead and take an elite defensive talent like a Kyle Hamilton, Aiden Hutchinson, Kyle Thibodeau, one of those guys. I highly doubt anybody is willing to trade what it takes to move up to number 1 overall, maybe even top 5 this draft. A lot of people view this quarterback class as very weak, most notably like NFL GMs and guys like that, who are actually the guys making decisions. So I would actually be surprised if anybody trades up into the top 5 to take a quarterback. So Jacksonville's pretty much set in stone. They're going elite defensive talent more likely than not. Maybe they go offensive lineman, who knows? But either way, they're not taking quarterback. Then you have Detroit, and I honestly feel like they may go top defensive talent because they need it very bad. And with this QB class so weak and basically nobody honestly deserving of the number 2 overall pick, maybe Detroit just trades out of that pick. But again, it's going to be hard for them to trade back because they're going to have to take a terrible deal because nobody really cares enough to probably even trade up for that pick. Maybe somebody trades up for that pick to take a Kyle Hamilton, not even a quarterback. But as far as quarterbacks go, I don't really see anybody trading up into the top 5 like I already said. So Detroit may just end up staying put there and taking an elite defensive talent because again, they really need it. Now, granted, if I'm them, I would find a replacement for Jared Goff as soon as possible, but they may find that in free agency, or more realistically, they can probably end up getting one of these quarterbacks later in the first round, trade back up into the first, or they can just get them second or third. Again, this QB class is widely viewed as weak. I disagree to an extent, but either way, Detroit may be able to get their franchise quarterback in like the second round with the 34th overall pick. Who knows? Then you have the Texans, and honestly, Davis Mills has definitely played well enough to at least earn him a trial run going into week 1 of next season. And he honestly deserves to be the guy through at least one training camp. He needs to be like the starter going into the 2022 offseason and everything. They build around him. They let him be the starting quarterback so he can get starting quarterback reps throughout training camp. And he should be the week 1 starter because he actually looks really good for the Houston Texans right now. Is he the answer? We're still not sure, but he's definitely done more than enough to deserve the shot at it next season. He should be the starter going into 2022. So the Texans may try to replace all of that elite defensive talent they've lost these past couple of years in the draft and may take an elite defender right there as well. Or maybe they try to get an elite receiver or offensive lineman to build around Davis Mills. Who knows? But again, so far with these top 3 picks, I actually for real doubt any of these guys go quarterback. And then you have the Jets. Obviously, they're not going quarterback. Zach Wilson is starting to show a little something. And anyway, when you take a quarterback that high, you're usually supposed to at least give him through most of his rookie contract. So the Jets are more than likely just going to go some elite talent, whether it be a receiver, offensive line, defense, somewhere. And then the Giants, surprisingly, there's been a report saying that they plan on keeping Joe Judge and Daniel Jones through next year at least. So if that's true, and I honestly believe that a little bit, if I'm a Giants fan, I would be upset, but I'm not surprised. And so they'll probably just take O-line or defensive talent high as well. They have the 5th overall pick and the number 8 unless Chicago starts to win some games, and they've honestly been close in some good games these past few weeks. They may wind up winning one, and the Giants may end up going back to like 10th with that 2nd pick. Who knows? But either way, I can see the Giants using 2 of their top 10 picks on elite talent in the draft outside of quarterback, and basically just doing this one last hoorah with Joe Judge and Daniel Jones. Like, hey, we had these top draft picks. We're going to use some of our free agency cap space money to build around making it work for y'all. If y'all don't make it work in 2022, then we're going to figure out head coach and quarterback. I can see that playing out. And then you have Carolina 7th overall. And honestly, this is the first team that I feel like will seriously consider quarterback. And it's crazy because if we can't pull it together, we may end up with the 7th pick and we may end up being the first team seriously looking for a quarterback in the draft order. If we lose to the Eagles and Giants, which is quite possible, we may end up picking like number 7 and Carolina moves to 8, that Giants 2nd pick moves to 9, and everything just shuffles around. It can get ugly for us with these last 2 games. We'll see. But again, Carolina so far out of the top 7 looks like the only team that is like, we need to figure out this quarterback situation right now. Who knows? Maybe Sam Darnold these last 2 games shows enough to where they roll with him again, but I highly doubt it. And then that leaves us at 9. And then beyond us, I can see Atlanta, Denver, New Orleans, and Pittsburgh taking quarterbacks as well. Maybe even trading up for one. Again, maybe not into the top 5, but then with all of these teams in a row, you have Carolina at 7, us at 9, Falcons at 10, Denver at 11, New Orleans at 13, and Pittsburgh at 15. Maybe even Cleveland at 14 if Baker Mayfield don't get his stuff together. Just that pile of teams all competing for a quarterback. Somebody may make a move into the top 5 just to beat out one of us. Maybe Pittsburgh is like, oh nah, that gauntlet of teams in front of us that all need quarterbacks, we're gonna have to trade in front of all of them to get our guy. So maybe they trade up to number 8 and take that second Jets pick just so they can get their first pick at the quarterbacks when it's like the first run of them. Who knows? We'll see. And as far as Pittsburgh goes, I mean, Big Ben just literally said like today that this will more than likely be his last season, and honestly 2 seasons ago should have been his last season. And if y'all haven't noticed, picks 16 through 32, all of the top teams in the NFL are all in a situation where they are either sure that they have their franchise quarterback and believe in them, or they at least have hope, like how well Tua has played with the Dolphins these last few weeks. Literally 16 through 32, the top 16 teams in a row all at least have some type of hope or answer at franchise quarterback. And I'm not even a Jalen Hurts fan, but I can see the Eagles definitely feeling like they have something in him and building around him with all of those draft picks that they have. You can also see that the 2 best teams have arguably the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL. It's not coincidental at all. And of course, I mean, you see the Lions right there, 28th, but that's, you can see on the screen as well, that's really the Rams pick. So look at literally 16 through 32. All of them have some sort of an answer at franchise quarterback. Maybe except for San Francisco. But then on top of that, even though Trey Lance is slowly coming along and taking a little bit longer than I thought he would, they actually believe in Trey Lance and they feel like he will be the future. That's why they took him so early. But everybody else has somewhat of a franchise quarterback at least. Maybe not long term like Tampa Bay with Tom Brady getting old, but all of these guys have at least good, solid, great, elite quarterback play. Literally 16 through 32. If that doesn't tell you how bad NFL teams need franchise quarterbacks nowadays, I don't know what will. That's why we need an answer right there. 16 through 32, man. Golly. I mean, like in a row. Not even sprinkled around, just straight in a row. Chargers, Justin Herbert. Raiders, Derek Carr. Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, who hasn't even been healthy all season. Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts. Miami with Tua now. And then you technically have San Francisco that is now the Miami pick for the reasons I've already explained. Then New England, Mac Jones. Philadelphia pick now, but it's technically the Colts. Carson Wentz. Arizona, Kyler Murray. Buffalo, Josh Allen. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow. Tampa Bay, Tom Brady. Detroit pick now, but it's technically the Rams pick. Matthew Stafford, a Georgia Bulldog. Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill. Haven't even had Derrick Henry since like week 8. Dallas, Dak Prescott, who had a bad middle of the season but is starting to pick it back up now. And then again, the top 2 teams, arguably the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL, Kansas City with Pat Mahomes and Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. It's not a coincidence, people. And now let's move on to where the 2022 quarterbacks may even be worthy of going. Again, a lot of people view this class as weak as, what was that, like 2013 with EJ Manuel and those guys? I definitely feel like that's a huge exaggeration. I just feel like all of these guys need to go to the right situation. Maybe everybody except for Kenny Pickett. I feel like it's all situational. You get them in the right offense, they can all excel and potentially be top 15 quarterbacks. And I mean, there could potentially be only 1 or 2 franchise quarterback from this class. There could potentially be 5 or 6. Again, it's all situational. They got to go to the right places. It's definitely not that 2013 class where it was just no hope at all. And taking any of those quarterbacks in the first round was just simply doing it just because they're a quarterback. But let's dive into it. First up, you have Kenny Pickett. I feel like he's going to be a top 15 pick. Arguably, and in my opinion, the most day one ready quarterback in this draft class. I feel like it's actually quite like obvious. I'm still worried about his hand size and his age and his lack of an elite ceiling, but he definitely has a higher ceiling than I feel like a lot of national media is giving him credit for. Like, I feel like a lot of people are giving him credit for having the highest floor, but then naturally some guys that just have a really high floor are supposed to just have a low ceiling, like just the complete opposite of a boom or bust. But I feel like Kenny Pickett definitely still has some room to grow to become an even better quarterback. He definitely has good enough arm strength. He has good enough mobility. I'm excited to see what the future holds for him for sure. And I can also see Joe Burrow comparisons for him. Not quite there, but as close as it gets. I feel like 5 years from now, Joe Burrow will still be the better quarterback, but I wouldn't be surprised if Kenny Pickett is right there on his heels. Then you have Matt Corral. I feel like he's potentially a top 20 pick, probably the best blend of high ceiling and high floor in this draft class, definitely between him and Kenny Pickett. I just feel like even though he has a slightly lower floor than Kenny Pickett, I feel like his ceiling is higher enough to where overall Matt Corral is just a better blend of both. And it's amazing how far he's come from his 2020 season where he had, I believe, like 2 5-interception games just in that one season, to now only having 4 interceptions all season while playing in the SEC. Out of all of the top quarterbacks in this class, he's definitely gone against the best accumulation of defenses and defensive talent easily out of any quarterback prospect in this draft class. I don't even think it's close, honestly. And then you have Desmond Ridder, where I feel like he can either go first or maybe even early second round. I feel like that's his range. He has all of the physical tools, but he's lacking touch, accuracy, and decision making, which are definitely red flags in my opinion. He's basically Jalen Hurts with a little less speed, but more arm strength. And I can even see the Ryan Tannehill comparisons a little bit. I can't wait to see how Ridder looks against Alabama as a pretty direct comparison to how Matt Corral looked against them. We'll see. That's either gonna skyrocket his draft stock or plummet it. But I definitely feel like it will not be the same after that game against Alabama. We'll see though. Then you have Sam Howell. I can see him going first or second round. Him and Malik Willis easily have the worst surrounding cast around them out of any of the top QB draft prospects easily. And to me, Howell is basically like a Baker Mayfield, but I'm gonna have to check out more of his film. That's just a surface level comp for me right now. But I definitely like Sam Howell. Don't love him as much as a lot of other people do, but I definitely feel like he has the potential to be a franchise quarterback. He's just basically Baker Mayfield. It may end up being what people thought Baker Mayfield would end up being. We'll see though. Then you have Carson Strong. I feel like he's going to be a late first or second round pick. Arguably the best natural arm talent out of all of the top quarterbacks discussed in this video. Between him and Willis, easily, them two have the best arm talent. Maybe you can throw Matt Corral in there in the top 3. But I definitely feel like if we're arguing the best just pure natural arm talent in this draft, it's an argument between Carson Strong and Malik Willis. But at the same time, out of all of these quarterbacks we're going to discuss in this video, Carson Strong is easily the least mobile. But don't get it confused, he's still pocket mobile, which matters most. You don't really expect him to go out there and make people miss in the open field picking up a first down, but he's definitely pocket mobile and pocket aware, which really matters. That's very underrated, especially for a guy coming out of college. But at the same time, I'm definitely worried about his injury history. That's his biggest red flag to me. But if any team wants a big arm pocket quarterback that can make all of the difficult throws no matter where you are in the field, this is your guy. And now we're to my boy Malik Willis, who of course is my favorite prospect, and his draft range is literally everywhere. I mean, he could be a top 5 pick just off of his traits, or he could end up going in the 3rd round just because of how frustratingly inconsistent he is. But I definitely think his draft stock is going to skyrocket after the combine. For NFL GMs and head coaches and scouts, his test and combine results may even be able to cancel out all of the bad we saw from Willis these last few games of the 2021 season. He's definitely the biggest boom or bust QB in this class. You can even argue he's the biggest boom or bust prospect in years. Arguably the best talent in this class, easily the most athletic and mobile. Again, arm talent wise, it's just him and Carson Strong. Maybe you can argue Matt Corral. And then if you're talking about mobility, he's just got it. He's in his own tier out of this QB class. If you just simply throw in his highlights, he basically looks like a fast Pat Mahomes. Like literally. Not too many guys in this class or even currently in the NFL can make the throws that he makes. And that's why an NFL team may even trade up to get him and bet on him early in the 1st round. Easily by far the highest ceiling in this class. But when you turn off those highlights and watch his film, the inconsistencies and decision-making problems become dangerously concerning. He can make throws that probably only 4 or 5 current NFL quarterbacks can even make, but he will also throw an awful interception in triple coverage in the red zone when their team is clearly in field goal range and should at the very least come away with 3 points, but then they'll come away with 0 because of his inconsistent judgment. And then not to mention his mobility that is only comparable to Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson probably in the NFL. I mean, I would say those guys are more mobile than him, and then like Malik Willis will probably be in his own tier right under that, and then after that it's every other quarterback as far as mobility goes, because he's a better and faster athlete than even Jalen Hurts is, and that's Jalen Hurts' best feature. And that's why I feel like even though his passing and decision making is crazy boom or bust, with his elite mobility and how NFL offenses are already utilizing QB mobility and athleticism very well and are winning early with these younger quarterbacks because of it, I feel like he has a certain floor to him if we are willing to use him exactly how the Cardinals use Kyler Murray and the Eagles use Hurts, moving the pocket, having some QB design runs, all of that type of stuff. I can definitely see the boom or bust in Malik Willis throwing wise, but with the way NFL offenses have adopted a lot of college concepts as far as mobile quarterbacks, again, you see it with the Cardinals with Kyler Murray, the Eagles with Jalen Hurts. I think Malik Willis honestly has a certain floor to him as well if you just run one of those offenses and just don't ask him to throw the ball much. You can win games today with Malik Willis if you just limit how often he throws and you work on his decision making and mechanics in the process. Even though his mechanics are still a little ugly, they are way better than they were in his 2020 season, which gives me hope that he can continue to improve. Because if you look at his mechanics in 2020 compared to what they look like in 2021, it is a huge difference. It's still not good enough, in my opinion, to be completely honest. But I mean, the drastic improvement just gives me all kinds of optimism that he can continue to get better with them at the NFL level. Also, the way I look at it, if you had to bet your life on which one of these quarterbacks in this class has the best chance of becoming a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, Malik Willis is probably literally your only hope. He's the only guy with the elite enough blend of arm strength and mobility that could potentially be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL out of all of the quarterbacks in this class. Maybe Matt Corral. But that's it if we're just talking about straight talent. Maybe Carson Strong. But at the same time, I can see how a lot of y'all don't like Willis and how most people are perfectly fine with taking a Pickett who could very easily be a top 15 quarterback. I feel like that's definitely a good realistic range for him with how high his floor is. And then just working with that. We take Kenny Pickett, we build around him, and at the very least, we're very good. Maybe we don't have elite quarterback play, but it's definitely good enough to make us Super Bowl contenders. I can see that. But at the same time, you know me, man. I want to go for the best of the best potentially, and I feel like Malik Willis definitely has top 5 quarterback in the NFL potential, and I'm willing to take that risk. I'm happy either way, honestly. I'm more excited about Willis, but if you want to go safe Kenny Pickett, who automatically makes you a playoff contender with the potential of being a Super Bowl contender, or you get Malik Willis, who maybe we're drafting another quarterback within 3 years, or you have a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, and even without a good roster, you're a Super Bowl contender. I'm down for either one, honestly. Because honestly, and it's honestly a huge if, even as big of a Willis fan as I am, it is a big if you can fix all of his issues, you could potentially have a game changer to the level of a Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Justin Herbert that doesn't come around often. And not only am I down to take that risk, but I also feel like we have the luxury of having a Heineke who can start until Willis is ready. If we didn't have a Heineke, like if we just had like absolutely no hope at quarterback currently, I can definitely see more of an argument towards taking a Kenny Pickett or a Matt Corral who's more NFL ready. But with a Taylor Heineke, even though I don't feel like Taylor Heineke is good enough to take us to a Super Bowl, he can win you some games, make you competitive, and as long as our guys are healthy, I mean, I honestly feel like we should have won at least 8-9 games, but injuries hit us like crazy, harder than most NFL teams this season, probably all but maybe 2 NFL teams this season. We just got hit the hardest with COVID and injuries. So best case scenario, everybody's healthy, we draft well, we spend big in free agency. Heineke can definitely take us to the playoffs. I can see Heineke winning us this division, but there's definitely a ceiling to Heineke, and like I said, everything around him has to go right. Everything has to be healthy. We have to draft well, we have to hit in free agency at several positions. If we don't, Heineke's not talented enough to elevate the product of this team. But if everything goes well in the offseason, I'm cool with Heineke starting next year and Malik Willis starting behind him until he's ready. Or maybe you even bring in a veteran to start. You have Heineke as your backup, and Malik Willis, maybe you wait to take him until like the 2nd or 3rd round because he slides that far. And now you're developing him as the 3rd stringer. I'm super down for that. But we'll see. Honestly, with all of these GMs that feel like they're the smartest guys in the world, they're going to take a look at Malik Willis's unique once-in-a-lifetime level of talent and potential and will say, hey, I can mold this guy into an all-pro Super Bowl winning quarterback, and end up taking him unnecessarily high in the draft, again, especially after the combine. And if the Ravens could win early with Lamar Jackson with how bad of a passer he was his rookie season, there's no reason why Malik Willis can't. Malik Willis is way better of a passer coming out of college than Lamar Jackson was. I honestly feel like Malik Willis's biggest weakness is that he tries to do too much. Literally all of Willis's weaknesses are coachable and fixable with time, but you can't teach or buy his mobility, his arm talent, his arm strength, and even at times his crazy ball placement with even $1 billion. Otherwise, somebody would have done it by now. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the first quarterback taken or the 6th. It can literally be either one. And then lastly, you have Bailey Zapp. Somebody may take a risk on him in the first round, but I can also see him lasting until like the 4th. That's his range. Who knows? We'll see after the combine. We'll definitely see after the Senior Bowl. I mean, this man had a better season than the legendary LSU Joe Burrow season. Not the strongest arm, but definitely strong enough. Not the most mobile, but definitely mobile enough. And he just makes plays, man. Statistically having one of the best seasons in college football history. Just go watch his highlight tape if you haven't yet. He's going against lesser competition, but you can still tell that he's just built different. You can just isolate him from everything around him and just tell, hey, this guy may end up being the truth at the NFL level. I need to watch more film on him myself and do a film session on him on my channel, but I would love to take a risk on him outside of the first round. I wouldn't draft him in the first round, but outside of the first round, Bailey Zapp is a very exciting prospect, man. I'm telling you. Go check him out if you haven't. So yeah, man, I mean, out of all of the quarterbacks, the ones I'd be the happiest with, Kenny Pickett for his high floor. Again, I feel like at the very least, he makes you a consistent playoff contender. And if everything is right around him, you have a Super Bowl contender, definitely good enough. I definitely can see him being a top 15 quarterback in the NFL. An easy upgrade over Taylor Heineke. Then you have Matt Corral. I mean, need I say more? I'm very excited about him. His blend of high floor and very high ceiling is just really exciting. Carson Strong is intriguing, especially if we want to start taking advantage of our deep threats. I mean, Taylor Heineke literally just makes having a De'Ami Brown and a DeAndre Carter pointless. Even though Kyle Allen dropped one in the breadbasket for DeAndre Carter and he dropped it. That hurt us real bad against the Cowboys when we were making that comeback. But I mean, all of these deep threats we have, Terry McLaurin, what's the point if Taylor Heineke is just going to underthrow him? So a Carson Strong and a Scott Turner offense, again, he's not the most mobile guy, but he's mobile enough. I mean, you can honestly run some read option. We were running read option with Kirk Cousins, and it was working just because teams don't really expect it to happen that often. You could do the same thing with Carson Strong, but at the same time, he has a cannon for an arm, like almost Justin Herbert type of thing. May not be Malik Willis level arm strength, but it's like right there, 1A, 1B out of this draft class for sure. And then of course I gave y'all an entire essay on Malik Willis, why I'd be excited to get him. And then also Bailey Zapp. Now, I don't necessarily hate anybody like Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell. I'm not big fans of them. I don't love them like a lot of other guys do, but I wouldn't be upset. Like previous drafts, there are guys I love and there are guys I hate. I don't hate any of these guys, but I definitely prefer everybody else I just named over Desmond Ridder and Sam Howell. But at the same time, if we were to take one of those two, and if Scott Turner is willing to build the offense around their greatest strengths and to hide their weaknesses, I'm down. Desmond Ridder's going to take some time, a lot of maturing, just like Malik Willis, but just with way less natural talent. So if we take Desmond Ridder, I'm not expecting him to start until 2023 at the soonest. And then Sam Howell, I mean, again, the Baker Mayfield I see in him. I feel like if everything is right around him, just like how the Cleveland Browns are winning right now, if Sam Howell can just be a slightly better Baker Mayfield, we could easily be playoff contender. But again, for the reasons I've already stated, I prefer all of the other guys. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. If you liked it, if you learned anything, let me know how you feel about this whole quarterback situation. Do you feel like we need to trade up? Do you feel like we can easily trade back and get a lot of these guys, or just stay put at 9 or wherever we may end up at the end of the season? And how do you feel about all of these quarterbacks? Give me your quarterback rankings. How do you feel about their weaknesses and strengths, their comps, and all of that type of stuff? I want a huge debate in the comment section. I'll definitely be reading them. And as always, please like this video if you liked it. If you learned anything, I always appreciate all of the support, man. Big time, man. Shouts out to everybody that pulls up to every live stream and at least leaves a like. And also, shouts out to everybody that donates to the channel, man. I really appreciate y'all. And a special shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now, man. I really appreciate y'all. Catch y'all later. I'm out.